Hi there, welcome to Wisq Crafts. Now come on, let's make a backpack. Let's make the perfect skate bag. Okay, before I show you how to make it, let me show you why it's the perfect skate bag. As you can see here, it has a little pocket in the front, and the bow there is actually functional. It's not just for design, it's to tie the whole thing together. So this skate bag, it has 3 compartments, one for each skate and one in the middle between those skate compartments for the gear. You'll see in a bit, after I put this skate in one compartment, that the middle is just a net. It's just so that the gear can breathe and doesn't stink. Just gonna put my skate in a little plastic bag real quick. And now here's my gear. Knee pads, elbow pads, and wrist pads. For the front pocket I mentioned earlier, I just put either my socks, a skate tool, or whatever little things I need. Now before you get started, you're going to need just one measurement, and you might not even need it at all if you're not too particular and about exact measurements. You just need an approximate measurement of the perfect strap for you. So take a backpack that you already own, if you have one, a backpack that you like, and measure the strap. Now you're going to take a tote bag. You could use a free tote bag from the grocery. Any kind of sturdy canvas bag will do. You'll need 2 of these, and they don't have to match. Mine just happened to match because I got them at the same store for free. And this next part is very important. You need to cut 2 holes straight through the front and the back of each tote bag, and cut the straps off as well. So just to be more clear, you need an approximate measurement of your preferred backpack strap, and then multiply that by 2. Then you need 2 tote bags. They don't have to match, that could be your style, and then cut some holes through them and cut the straps off. And all you need next is a crochet hook and yarn, or you could use any 2 old belts and scrap cloth you want for the straps and the pocket in the front. I prefer to crochet my own straps and pocket, so here is how I start my first stitch. If you're not familiar with crocheting, I'll have other videos up on my channel about more beginner stuff. So I just start to chain. This is very simple anyways. I think you can follow just watching, and don't feel bad if you have to rewind or you have to check out my other tutorials. So all I did here was chain until I have the exact width of the strap I want, and then I start to half double stitch all throughout this width and just keep going back and forth, half double stitching until I have the length I want. I mentioned earlier that each strap should be multiplied by 2. You need 2 straps that long because it's going to go through the whole backpack and tie it together like I demonstrated earlier with the finished product. So let's speed this up a bit. I'm here at the very end of the width I made, of the width I prefer, and then just to transfer to the next row of my next half double stitches, I just flip it over, chain 3 times because that's about how tall or long it should be, and then just carry on. And this is how I just keep going for the entire length that I mentioned. I prefer to crochet it because I enjoy it. It's very long, I know, but it's also very relaxing. It's okay if you prefer, or you're in a rush, you just prefer to use some old belts that are long enough. Just try it out. It's okay to be more resourceful. Now here's a pocket that I made. I made it exactly the same way that I made the straps. Just chain the width and then double stitch the rest of it all the way until I have a perfect square that I want. You could use some old scrap cloth, like a pocket from some old pants, especially jeans, but like I said, I just prefer to crochet it. Now, since I have an idea of want this pocket to be, I already made it. I'm going to stitch on a square where I can attach it to, because it's easier to crochet through cloth when you already have some yarn to attach to. So you'll see what I mean later, but here let me just show you. I'm doing what I think is called a backhand stitch. I forgot what it's really called, or if I'm right, because I haven't looked it up. Oops. But I think it's called a backhand stitch. You see that it's every stitch is very close together. That's very important when you're going to crochet onto it, because if they're too far apart, your crochet stitches will be very loose, and that leaves like room for little holes where stuff can fall through. So here it's very tight. And correct me if it's not called a backhand stitch. I'll look that up later. You can draw a mark of how big you want the pocket to be before you start crocheting around it. I didn't bother because I just prefer not to do that, but you could do that to make things easier. And when you're done, you'll have this square to attach your pocket through. Of course, I didn't stitch all around. I just did 3 sides, because you only need to stitch 3 sides of a pocket. Otherwise, it's useless. Now here's how I crochet onto it. Again, skip this part if you're not going to crochet the pocket and you're just going to use some scrap cloth. That's easy too, you just sew it on. So here I just knot my yarn onto the first stitch and then loop through it and start to chain. I'm going to chain 2 or 3 because that's how I start a half double stitch. I think it's usually supposed to be 3 chains, but it doesn't matter. You honestly can't tell if you make a mistake, you miss a chain or 2. I'm not too particular. So here I have my first 2 chains, and then I pull some yarn through those 3 chains. I mean those 3 loops. And of course, I always struggle a little bit when I'm on camera, but there it is. There's my double stitch. It turned out to be a double stitch, but I think I was going for half double. Here we go. Just struggling a little. And okay, that's a double stitch. It doesn't really matter. I just feel like a half double stitch is tighter than a double stitch, but apparently I went all the way to a double. Okay, so it's super easy. From your first sewn on stitch, you just transfer to the next one, the one right next to it, and continue as if you're crocheting on yarn. See, that's why, well, you technically are. That's why you sewed on some stitches with yarn, so that you would have something to attach to, because it's really hard. I know some people do it, but it's really hard if you're just going to push your crochet hook into the cloth you're trying to crochet onto. Now let's just speed this up because I think you get it. And then you'll have something like this. Super long straps. I just attached them to the end of the canvas bag, the tote bag. So like I mentioned earlier, you have to put some holes through it, cut some holes, and then just push or pull your straps through. This is how you connect both tote bags to each other. At first, you'll need to connect them some more. That's how you'll have your middle compartment. In a bit, I'll show you. And there it is. It's a backpack now. And then you just tie it in the front to hold it together. But we're not done here. That's why I did a running stitch all around the sides of each tote bag, because this is where we're going to attach the net that keeps the 2 tote bags together and serves as your middle compartment for your gear that I showed you earlier. See, it's just a running stitch. I think that's pretty simple, but I'll show you in the next clip anyways. And there you go. It's going to be something like that. You're going to be able to slip your gear in there. So here's how I do a running stitch. I just push the needle through, and then of like a few gaps in between, and then pull it through. have a running stitch along 3 sides of each tote bag. You're just going to chain through each stitch, and then when you have the desired length of a chain, you transfer to the stitch next to it, or you could skip every stitch if you happen to have stitched too close to each other. You want the gaps to be kind of far so that your net is kind of loose and breathable, but not too big that anything can fall out. And here I'm attempting to give you a close-up of what I'm doing, but if it's not super clear on camera, I'm just chaining. I'm just making enough loops or chains to reach the next stitch, but actually the next stitch, because I mentioned that you can skip a stitch if you want it to be a more breathable net, bigger holes and all that. And that seems about long enough, so let's transfer to the stitch across it, just a little bit more, and here. It's just like how we were transferring when we were making the stitches for the pocket. Just slip the hook through and then chain as usual. And then make some more chains to transfer to the next stitch or next stitch if you're skipping stitches. And it'll be something like this. See, you have some loops there. You can attach your next row of loops to these loops, and so on, and that's how you will end up with something like this. It's basically a net already, but all you need to do now is attach it to the other side, where I also made a bunch of loops on the other bag, the other tote bag, and now we just attach them together. It's just like how you made the first row of loops, except now you already have loops on the other side to attach to. So it's very this part's very important, that you don't accidentally skip a loop. It's a little daunting at first, but it's not that hard. So you chain approximately the same length. If you're very particular with measurements, that's okay, but I feel like it doesn't matter because it's just going to be flexible when it's all done, and you won't even be able to tell if some of these chains are not even. So just attach to the loop on the other side. You're just always going to attach to the loop corresponding to it on the other tote bag. It's like a mirror. So where you have one loop on one bag, you chain and then go straight to the loop on the other side and attach and then chain again. See, I chained to one side and now I'm going back where I came from, except right next to it. And from this angle, it's basically up and down. We're going in a zigzag formation. And this is how we attach it. We attach both tote bags to each other via the net that we're making. So I was up, now I'm going down, but I'm not skipping any loops in this net, because if you do, you're going to have a really big hole where your gear or other stuff can fall through. See, just up, down. It's like a zigzag. It's like a zigzag right now. And you just continue that all around the 3 sides of the bag. Just up and down, zigzag, chaining. You chain one loop, and then you go to the other side or the other tote bag, and then chain there. Attach, chain, attach, and chain. That's it in a zigzag form. And you'll end up with something like this. And that's it. That's how you make the perfect skate bag. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to crochet the straps in the pocket like I did. You could use 2 old belts for the straps, and you could use a pocket from some old jeans for the pocket in the front, or use lots of scraps of cloth for lots of pockets. However you choose to do it, I hope that my tips were helpful, and hope the overall design of this skate bag will be perfect for you and your needs. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting!